Are you good, Denise?
Yeah, I'm good. We're ready.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Hello.
Hi, Jarrett. Thanks for coming. I'm just going to give it a minute for folks to trickle in, and then we will get started.
Hey, Kat. Hey,
Hi,
Michelle.
Susie. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Susie.
All right. For the most part, people have entered, and we'll continue to admit people in. Again, thanks for coming, everyone. For those who haven't met me before, I am Kat, and I am the RTAG facilitator, and welcome. Next slide, please. This is just a notification of recording. This virtual public meeting will be recorded. The MBTA may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and/or transcript. By continuing attendance with this virtual public meeting, you consent to participate in a recorded event. If you are not comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera and keep your microphone muted, or you may choose to excuse yourself from the meeting. Other important notes: your microphone and webcam are automatically disabled upon entering the meeting. The meeting will be open to questions and answers at the end of the formal presentation. And please take time to respond to our survey. Your feedback is important. Today's agenda, we will start with a welcome and introductions. We'll move on to Zoom directions, an RTAG update, system-wide accessibility updates given by the Assistant General Manager of SWA, Laura Brailsford. We'll have a system-wide accessibility feedback session. Then we will have the ride updates given by the Chief of Paratransit Services, Michelle Styler. Then we will have the ride feedback session, and then we will end with some closing remarks. Zoom directions for our ASL interpreters tonight. We have Sandy Ligren and Denise Martinez. To view their video, find the interpreter's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click the ellipses, then click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. Zoom directions for CART captioning. Tonight we have Denise Gracia. To start viewing closed captioning, click closed caption with the CC icon. A tip is to click and drag the closed captioning to move its positioning in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, click the upward arrow next to Start Video / Stop Video. Click Video Settings, then Accessibility, and move the slider to adjust the caption size. Zoom directions for technical questions. If you have a technical question about Zoom or the features of the meeting, please use the chat function, and our technical assistant will attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nora Nagel, one of the RTAG co-chairs, to give a quick update on what RTAG has been up to. Go ahead, Nora.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Noah.
Thank you. So welcome everybody to October's Rider Transportation Access Group meeting, also known as RTAG. As most of you know, I hope, this is a community-based group advising the MBTA on transportation matters impacting people with disabilities and older adults. Just to give you an idea of what we've been up to, we continue to talk to Uber and Lyft. That's an ongoing thing regarding service animal refusals. Yesterday, a group of, oh, and there's my guide dog butting in. A group of plaintiffs from the MBTA lawsuit and members of RTAG joined the conference involving Walk Massachusetts and Mass Bike in order to help lead a discussion and conduct audits of pedestrian paths of travel and discuss bike and walk audit best practices in real world scenarios. So a group of us walked around and viewed a few intersections around the Sheraton Boston where they were having their conference. So we were near Belvedere Street. We crossed Mass Ave at a signalized intersection. We then went up to Boylston Street and Mass Ave to look at a very convoluted multi-stage intersection. Then we moved on to Newbury Street to discuss an intersection that had a protected bike lane, a floating bus stop, and a plaza. We heard concerns from pedestrians and the biking communities, and we were also able to share accessibility concerns regarding safety for people with disabilities in these various scenarios that really hadn't, were new to many of the people that we were talking to, and just talked about the need for all of these three constituencies to share space in a safe way. Some of the issues that we saw included very poor sidewalk conditions, tactile warning strips that weren't necessarily facing in the direction of crosswalks, floating bus stops, bikes flying through red lights, cars parked in crosswalks, and all sorts of other issues. So we're continuing to try to work with the biking community and the walking community to sort of make sure that they understand where we're all coming from. And we also just wanted to remind everybody, you may have seen it in the news, but new accessible Green Line cars are coming, and one is going to be on display at City Hall Plaza on, I think, the 29th and 30th of October. So you can go and check it out and see what you think about a fully accessible Green Line car, because I know people have been waiting for an accessible Green Line for a very long time. So I'm going to pass it back to Kat. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Nora. I appreciate it.
Go ahead, Kat.
That.
And
Yeah.
I am going to turn it over to Laura Brelsford from System-Wide Accessibility to give some updates for us. Go ahead, Laura.
All right, thanks so much, Kat, and good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you here tonight. I do have a number of updates for you, including more details on the viewing of that new Green Line car that Nora just mentioned. First off, for those that joined the September RTAG meeting, you would have heard me mention that we were just about to partially open a renovated Winchester commuter rail station. I'm back with you tonight with an update to say that did in fact happen, and on September 30th, the station opened to passengers after roughly 3 years of being closed while it was fully renovated to be made accessible. Currently, the platforms, both on the inbound and outbound side, roughly only half of the platforms are open for service. So these platforms will serve the first 2 to 3 cars of each train. But both platforms are accessible. On the inbound side, we have an elevator, and on the outbound side, we have both an elevator and a ramp. When the full station opens in a couple of months, we will have redundancy on both sides, and the raised platforms will be quite long. They will be long enough to actually serve 9-car trains. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do. On that inbound side, though, just make sure you check out our service alerts to verify that one elevator is in service. If for whatever reason it goes out temporarily, there will be an accessible shuttle to bring you to the next accessible station. All right, speaking of accessibility upgrades, next slide. many of you experienced the fact that the Orange Line in the Southwest Corridor was recently shut down for some major track improvement work. During during the few weeks that those stations were closed, a lot of major improvements were realized. The primary one being that track beds were updated throughout that end of the Orange Line, and over 20 slow zones that had been implemented were lifted. So for those traveling on the southern end of the Orange Line in the past couple days, we hope you've noticed a smoother and quicker trip. But in addition to the track work, while these stations were closed, the teams were also able to make a number of other important and really helpful updates while they had really unfettered access to the stations and track beds. The one I wanted to highlight here tonight has been the subject of a lot of conversation over the last several months, and that is the teams were able to get in and install what we call rub rail along the full length of many of the platforms in the Southwest Corridor. The rub rail is really valuable because it essentially fills in the horizontal gap between the platform edge and the train car. And as many of you know, we have some excessive horizontal gaps out in our system. So this was a great upgrade that we were able to deliver relatively quickly, thanks to these stations being closed and open, much more open for our maintenance teams. I want to acknowledge that throughout the Southwest Corridor, we still have the very real challenge of the vertical gaps. That's something that's going to require a much more comprehensive, complex solution that's being mapped out as we speak. But we hope that you notice that these horizontal gaps, the reduction in these gaps will make a difference as you transition from the platform to train and vice versa. Next slide. All right, and then one really interesting and particularly exciting development that's been underway for a number of years, but is really coming to fruition as we speak, is some new hands-free fare gate technology. So this is brand new technology that we've developed within the MBTA with support from our fare gate vendor, fare systems vendor, Cubic, that was designed based solely on feedback we've heard from riders over the years. A long time question and complaint we've received is, why can there not be an easy pass style solution for MBTA fare gates? Why do I need to reach up and tap a fare validator in order to activate the gates? Why can't it be set up where the gates automatically open as I approach? And the answer historically has been, it's not technically feasible. There's so many complications regarding the sensors that are required and the sensitivity that is necessary for that type of technology. It just was not implementable in the context of station fare gates. But in a contract we entered into several years ago, we basically put it to the vendor that they needed to invent such a technology for us. So after a lot of back and forth over the past few years, we have what we believe is a viable solution. We have a fare gate now that is in one of our test labs on Tremont Street, and over the course of the next week, we're going to be doing a lot of user testing to make sure that it's working as we believe it should be. And the goal is by the end of this calendar year, we will have one of these gates in a station for use during a pilot phase. And then over the course of next year, we'll roll out an additional nine gates scattered throughout the system. And folks participating in the pilot will be able to give us feedback so we can make decisions about whether or not to expand this system-wide. I think what we'll do here is just, I'll pause here, Rob, if you could play the video clip. I think the video will speak volumes of what we're talking about. And what you'll see here is our very own Jennifer Ross traveling, doing her catwalk walk through the Fairgate. She is wearing essentially a specialized Charlie card in a lanyard around her neck. And if you can play that again, Rob, as you see, as she approaches the gate automatically opens because the new sensors on the gate recognize that special Charlie card and know that they should open. So this truly is the first of its kind technology. The system in Vancouver has hands-free gate technology, but it is not fully compatible with its fare system, so it's not connected to its version of the Charlie card, whereas the system will be. So we're very, very excited to be testing this out next week and then getting it into one of our stations by the end of the year. When that happens, we'll be back to you with a lot more details about how you can sign up to be part of the pilot if you're interested in doing so. Excellent. All right, and then switching gears back over to station accessibility. In addition to Winchester, we also made some major strides on the Green Line just within the last few weeks. Stations on the D branch, 4 stations, Elliott, Waubun, Beaconsfield, and Chestnut Hill, have all been modified to provide for accessible boarding for the first time ever. So at these locations, the team has gone in and raised a portion of the platform to be 8 inches above the top of the rail, which for those of you who are Green Line riders know is the required height for us to be able to deploy the bridge plates on the existing vehicles. These are intended to be interim upgrades. We're actually going to be back at these 4 locations in about a year and a half to fully upgrade the station. But the great news is now, for the first time ever, folks can get on and off the trains safely. If you happen to be out that way, you'll notice that we're also making a number of upgrades to a couple of the paths of travel to each platform. Sidewalk renovations are happening on an ongoing basis and should wrap up by mid-November. And this work is part of a much bigger, broader campaign to make all of the stations across the Green Line accessible. All right, next slide. And part of the reason that we've been pushing so hard to make more platforms accessible is because we are trying to tee things up for the arrival of our next generation Green Line car. This is something that Nora just referenced. So for a number of years, we've been talking about the need to develop and procure the next generation Green Line car so that we can retire the vehicles that are out there today. This has been an amazing opportunity to essentially dream up what we want to see in an accessible vehicle. So we've been doing a lot of work with our vehicle engineering team And a lot of the feedback we've been providing them has come from conversations a couple of years ago that we had with an ad hoc accessibility group, largely supported by early members of RTAG. So some of the features that these cars will definitely boast include, for the first time ever, the cars will be 100% low floor. So as some of you know, on our newer Green Line fleet today, the accessible doors are in the middle of the train, but only that center part of the train is lowered and accessible. With the Type 10 cars, the entire car will be accessible. And if you use wheel mobility or just are not able to climb a stair, you'll have access to the full length of the train car. The cars are designed in such a way that once we retire all of our older vehicles, we're going to be able to raise up platforms along the Green Line to 14 inches, so an additional 6 inches high, and we'll be able to provide level boarding at the Green Line, very similar to what we do on the red, orange, and blue lines today. But until the time that we retire all of our legacy vehicles, these Type 10 vehicles will be accessible with an automated bridge plate. But the big difference is that the motor persons will not have to get out of their seat to deploy the bridge plate. So it will make it a lot easier for customers to request and receive the bridge plate on their own. There's going to be a lot of other great features out there, including additional priority seating and additional seating areas for wheel mobility users. There's also going to be a lot of improvements to our passenger information systems. So many improvements to the quality of the audio, as well as much more comprehensive and rich visual information. So that is going to be a really, really significant improvement and change from what we have today. Next slide. And on the left of the screen is a snapshot of what we will be seeing with these new vehicles. So I'm not going to do it justice here, but essentially this is a shot kind of looking through one of the new cars. And you can see essentially from one end of the train, you can see all the way to the other end, because again, the vehicle is 100% low floor. We're paying a lot of attention to color contrast within the vehicle, and again, making sure that there is a lot of space for all of the different riders and needs of our riders who will be enjoying these new vehicles. The most important thing I want to emphasize here today is that we're going to have a mock-up of this car at Government Center, City Hall Plaza, next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. If you receive our monthly newsletters, you would have gotten these details earlier this week, but the train will, the mock-up will be open for exploration from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday and Wednesday. My team will be there on Tuesday morning from 10 to 12, but staff from vehicle engineering and staff from my team will be there for most of both days. So if you're able to come to Tuesday morning, that would be amazing. We would love to see you there, but if you're not available, do try to come out at some point next week and check it out and offer your feedback. There are a number of details about the train that are still up for final design decisions. So we really do want to get people's feedback on some of the proposals. If you're interested in coming and you might need an accommodation, just reach out to my team by emailing accessibility@mbta.com or calling us at 222-1898. All right, and I should mention that this mock-up will be accessible to everyone, but if you need specific accommodations such as ASL, just let us know. All right. And then one other announcement I have is that we are very excited in that we have just created a new position within our team here at System-Wide Accessibility, the title of which is Manager of Accessible Coordinated Mobility and Training Development. I won't lie, that does not exactly roll off the tongue, but we are really excited about it nonetheless. This individual is going to lead initiatives to ensure that our riders have the knowledge and confidence they need and that they want to ride not only the MBTA, but to access all of the accessible options that are available to them in the region. A big part of this individual's work would be building relationships with local agencies and other organizations that provide transportation resources, and developing training and working with our mobility-centered teams to make sure the training and the information we're providing riders is really effective and making a difference. This person will also be working with us on developing training and educational materials for MBTA staff. So as my team works on the next generation training for bus operators or subway motor persons or transit police, this manager would have a large hand in that as well. So if you are interested, please go to our website, mbta.com, and go to the careers page, and you can find the posting there. The position should be up about for another week, but I encourage anybody who's interested to apply as early as possible. And on the right there is a photo of some of us at a recent departmental gathering. All right, finally, just to wrap up, as we always like to remind everybody, although we are really working hard to make improvements continuously, we know that there are still issues out there, and we know that not every trip you take is going to go smoothly. So if something goes wrong, or if you have a question or concern, we really do want to hear from you. And you can do that by calling our main call center number at 222-3200, or filing a question or complaint online by going to mbta.com and clicking the support tab, or tweeting us by tweeting at MBTA. We also have a ton of resources on our website if you are new or just want to learn more. The best place to start is always mbta.com/accessibility. And then, of course, we always like to see you and have the opportunity to interact at these meetings. The next one is our next public RTAG meeting on November 21st in the evening. And we are also starting to get ready for our semi-annual update on our accessibility settlement agreement, which will be December 11th in the evening as well. So I hope to see you all there. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great evening. Next slide.
Thanks, Laura. It'll now be our question and comment period for Laura and the system-wide accessibility team. To indicate that you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator will unmute attendees to ask questions in the order that they raise their hands. To speak, click reactions and then raise hand. You can use your keyboard by clicking the Alt and Y key. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand or *6 to unmute. Does anyone have questions for system-wide accessibility? I think Don. Give me 1 second. Don, do you have a question for system-wide accessibility?
Yes, I do, but I don't have video, just audio. Laura, it was a pleasure. Thank you for meeting with me the other week. But I have concerns about the new Green Line cars. It's nice to have the feature of deploying the bridge plate yourself, but you don't have the opportunity of the operator asking people to move out of the priority seating area. So once you're on board, you have to do it all yourself, and then there's less room for you to move into that area if they so choose to move, and them moving around. And two, I disagree with the fact that bus operators sign off on accessibility equipment leaving the garage. It should be overseen by I think the bus superintendent or supervisor, because often I get on buses without that accessibility in working order. And three, which is one, doesn't the settlement say that all accessibility equipment be clean and in working order? Often I encounter that problem. I had a meeting with you once before with an attorney that assisted me on this. So what do you have to say on this, Ms. Brelford?
So Don, let me just respond to your feedback on the Green Line piece first, and then I want to clarify what your concern is on bus. But for the Green Line, I think the point you're raising is a really legitimate one, and something that we've been talking about internally as well. I think while we're really excited about the idea that the bridge plate activation will be much more streamlined and riders will end up feeling a lot more empowered to request and access that bridge plate and get on and off much more quickly. There is a downside to that, in that the motor persons will not be necessarily with you to assist you automatically, and to your point, kind of push or pull people out of that area that you may need to sit in. So that is something we're really starting to talk through, and we'll be talking through with operations about how do we find the right balance there. You know, it may be that during rush hour, during crowded conditions, the motor person still needs to get up to make sure that you're able to get into that area, or they will have visual access to make sure that you are safe. But we're gonna have to do a lot of planning with them. And then this is all a new feature. There's nothing to say that if we find out it's introducing a lot of issues, we can always build in the protocol that monitors that motor persons need to get out of their seat. So I totally agree with you that there is some risk there, and something we'll be watching clearly. But this sort of new feature or new programming on the train will open up a lot of new options that we haven't had before, that ultimately I think will be better for riders. Donald, I think I missed the question, a specific concern in your bus feedback, other than the fact that you are still running into buses where not all of the accessibility features are working appropriately. Is that right?
Yes, I often encounter securements that don't work. seatbelts that are not in working order. But operators, although this is different, that don't understand how to use the seatbelt, it being leaving the garage without the accessibility in working order. From our meeting, I understand it's the operator's responsibility to sign off on that bus. How about now we have something else in place to oversee the operator? Because the operators let this bus leave without all accessibility equipment in working order.
Yep. So the policy as it stands now is, as you know, we have two securement areas on each bus. If the operator finds out that there is an issue, let's say with the seat belt in one of the securement areas, that bus can go into service for one day, and then needs to be brought to the maintenance shop to be addressed. But that when it's in service, the operators should be working to ensure that an individual boarding uses the other securement area. Now, obviously, we recognize that there will be situations when two-wheeled mobility users are on the bus. And when that happens, operators are required to call that in to OCC. We've seen very few instances in which both securement areas have been or need to be occupied such that somebody is required to sit in an area that does not have have a working seatbelt. I think Donald, one of, and not to disclose any of the information you've shared with us, but one thing we found in certain situations is that operators are not necessarily relocating somebody to the securement area that's functioning properly. So that is something that when that comes up, they are counseled on that, because that should not be happening. I will also say that as we procure more buses and there are less limitations on how many buses are needed at any given moment, we will better be able to be tighter with our requirements, so that we could theoretically get to a point where we said that any issue with any securement area, that bus cannot go in service even for a single trip. But we're not at that point today.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you, Don. Susie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks. I just have a quick question for the fare gates. You know, that looks really interesting and looks really it looks like a rapid system. The only trouble is like if that is being if the person using the fare gate is one trip at a time, paying for one trip at a time, their nearness to the gate at any other point in their trip could cause more money to come off of their card. And so like I'm just wondering if your plan is to make it only for monthly passes, or if your plan is to make it for longer length of time passes. And so I'm just wondering about those particular issues. And also I was wondering about the new fare things on all of the fixtures. Has there been any information about anybody losing money on those as they walk by. I just kind of keeping track of that in solidarity with folks that travel that aren't rich. Thanks.
Yeah, no, those are two really great questions. So with respect to the hands-free gate, absolutely, that's one of the things that the design team and particularly those working in our fair transformation department have been really focused on, is making sure that these essentially sort of, programmed Charlie cards are not setting off gates left and right, and money is not being drawn down from somebody's account because of that. So one of the things I should have mentioned at the outset is that for a variety of reasons, this being one of them, uh, there will only be one of these free hands fair gates in each array, and it will be one of the accessible hands-free fair gate. The other thing is, and this is what is the subject of a lot of testing right now, it is being designed in such a way that the gates will only be activated really when you're within the chute of that particular gate. So, if you're simply walking by or you are standing next to the gate, it should not be activated or drawing down. It's a great question about timing. I will check with the project team. There may be some controls on how soon after a gate's been activated could you activate it again as
Yeah.
as a sort of a guardrail for kind of getting double charged, but I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. With respect to your second question about the new contactless fare payment validators that are up on a number of our vehicles today, I do know from early reports during the first couple of weeks, there were some reports of folks who had been inadvertently charged, and so refunds were processed for anybody who brought concerns of that nature forward. I do not have the latest on how frequently or significantly that problem has proven to be. I do not know if anybody from my team does. If so, please jump in here. But from what I understand, it was not a large amount of questions or concerns that came in during the initial few weeks. But that is also something we can check on, Susan, and report
Yeah,
back.
it's just a concern of mine for folks that are already financially strapped and stuff, and like this I mean, you guys have gone above and beyond with like the new reduced fares and all the other things that really arm wrestle like people's finances back into consideration. And the response, I was just hoping that there wasn't these kind of issues that were cropping up at all. But I guess it's not surprising that it happens once in a while. But anyway,
Yeah,
if you guys can get information to us, that'd be brilliant. Thanks, Laura. Thanks for everything.
you're very welcome. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Susie. There is a question in the chat from Abby. Is the mock-up an actual train or a pretend train? I mean, in terms of materials on the walls and floor and doors. No motor or pantograph, of course.
It is definitely a pretend train. This is not something that you're gonna see on the track beds at any point, unless there's a major unforeseen issue. This is a very, very fancy mock-up. It should have the look and feel of the real train. It's something better than cardboard, but definitely not the real deal or real materials. And when you are out there, if you're able to join, one of the things I mentioned as being a huge improved feature is that there will be a lot of additional digital panels on the screen that are designed to provide a lot of real-time information, including, let's say, the elevator at your destination is out of service. You'll be able to get that information audibly and visually on the train. When you go and see that mock-up, the digital panels will have basically still frame poster boards of what you would see. So you'll have to bring your imaginations with you a little bit on Tuesday or Wednesday. But again, it's gonna be pretty close to the real deal. I think you guys will be excited by this.
Thanks, Laura. Any other questions for system-wide accessibility before moving on to the ride? All right. Thank you so much, Laura, for your presentation, and thanks everyone for those questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thanks, Jarrett. I am now going to turn it over to Michelle Styler, the Chief of Paratransit Services, to give her update.
Great.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you, Laura. Laura is always a tough act to follow. And I'm also leaving this meeting determined to get a group picture of the team to share as well. Thanks again, Laura, for inspiring our team. If we go to the next slide. This slide here trends ridership through the period of August through September of 2024. Ridership for the month of September was up 4,800 trips from August at a total of 147,000. I found it's easier to round. It's less of a mouthful. September of 2024 ridership was 21,000 trips over September of 2023. The trip distribution for September was 80,000 for dedicated service providers, 60,000 for demand service or Ride Flex, and 7,700 integrated trips or trips that are shifted by track. We'll go to the next slide. We're trending data here on two graphs for the same period, August of 2023 through September of 2024. September on-time performance was 94%. That's on the left of the screen. To the right of the screen are trip pickups greater than 120 minutes. We are looking at 0.02 per thousand, which calculates out to be 2 trips. Upon further investigation with track later on this morning, we determined that there were actually no trips that exceeded 120 minutes. So I'm happy to issue an updated slide to this deck. And it's worth sharing that any trip now that exceeds 120 minutes, we require an investigation and root cause analysis from track. And we're also digging deeply into trips that exceed 60 minutes, and they're significantly less than we've ever seen before. We go to the next slide. Track performance is trended the same period of time here with 2 charts. To the left is call hold times. For September was 0.33, which is just about 20 seconds. And to the right, we trend calls, and we track addressed 90,000 calls in September. And for reference, September of 2023 was 1.93 minute hold time and 93,000 calls. We go to the next slide. This chart here, again, for the same period, demonstrates how the share of calls that track answers that's within the 2 minutes that we've set as our goal, and that was 96% for the month of September. And the next slide.
Michelle, this is Rob. I'm just going to hold for 1 sec. I think I might have been one slide behind.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So right now on the screen, there are two
Okay.
charts, one for
We
call
could
center.
go here as well. So right now on the screen is track performance. And again, this is the average speed of answer, or often referred to as hold time. And what we're looking at here for September of 2024 was 0.33 seconds, 0.33 minutes, which translates into about 20 seconds. And when to the right of the screen for call volume for September of 2024, that was 90,000 calls. And for reference, September of 2023, we had 93,000 calls, and September of 2023 hold time just dropped under 2 minutes. All right, sorry. If we go to the next slide, I'm jumping ahead. There we are. Okay, so this slide trends our call center performance for share of calls answered within 2 minutes. 2 minutes is our goal, and that was 96% for the month of September. Sorry, there's a message that popped up. I'll work to address the questions after. If we can go to the next slide, Rob. Okay. So I thought it was a good time to revisit Ride Along. We were pretty excited about this and presented it at the board meeting. It was initially tested with MBTA staff and RTAG participants. Thank you for participating. It was expanded to Ride customers that opt into the Ride text feature. And that was on October 10th. We're going to analyze the performance and data and make any necessary adjustments before moving to full deployment. And we're still targeting late October or early November. The next slide, please. Thank you, Rob. Okay. This I speak to often. We've recently gotten a lot of traction with our positions. We have 27 authorized positions and 18 filled positions, 9 vacant positions. However, 4 recently posted, and we are reviewing applicants right now. And we anticipate we will begin to set up interviews. Those were the Deputy Director of Operations, the Customer Liaison, the Manager of Contract Performance, and a Senior Analyst. An additional position was posted, I believe, yesterday, maybe last night, and I will share that with you, Kat. And that is for the Deputy Director of Innovation and Research. We have 2 additional positions that have been approved by Human Resources that will post shortly. And those are the Deputy Director of Paratransit Optimization and a Manager of Customer Issues Resolution. And what this will do is it will fill out our operations team fully, and it will give us additional resources to address any customer concerns. Right now, when customer concerns come in, we have Megan Ackerman, our Deputy Director of Communications, that does her best to address those issues, and we distribute them throughout the team. We're hoping to have 2 dedicated people that can support Megan in these efforts. And then separately, Deputy Director of Innovation and Research is pretty exciting because what that will do, will add to our team, allow us to introduce more innovative and creative solutions. We're looking at all kinds of things, but particularly with technology. And I think that is it. The next slide simply has contact information.
Great, thank you,
And-
Michelle.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'd like to open to
Thank
any
you.
questions.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
All right, so if you have any questions or comments for the ride, again, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator will unmute attendees to ask questions in the order that they raise their hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. You can also click the Alt and Y keys on the keyboard. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And the first, I'm going to start with a chat question. Adam asked if trips are greater than 2 hours, could investigations figure out if it was because traffic was heavy, since it can be at times?
And that's exactly what we're looking at. So when we talk about root cause, we're in a position now where we have a good amount of drivers and vehicles. So it would be, was it a dispatch error? Was it traffic related, weather related, emergency, detours? And that's what we're looking at. They are happening infrequently. So we're pretty happy about that. And what that means to me is now we drill down further. I feel like we've gotten a handle on those 120s. Now we go down lower and we'll keep drilling down further so we understand what the issue is. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Michelle. I am going to pass it to Gina. Gina, are you able to unmute? All right, I will go to Elizabeth Ann, and then we can return to Gina when you're ready.
I'm sorry, this is Gina. And I finally was able to unmute.
No worries, go for it.
Okay, sorry. I'm blind and it was telling me I had to press F6, which I hadn't had to do that in the past. But okay, I actually have some notes and I want to keep them really short and to the point because I want to let other people have a chance. I appreciate the time to be able to come today. I recently had some issues with my ride eligibility expiring, and that process has brought some concerns to me for the process in general. So I'm not trying to go into all the details of my personal situation, but I will, it pertains to that. So if the ride eligibility expiring, I didn't receive a notice, and I'm curious about that. It seems like there's not something in place to make sure that people not only get a notice, but get a notice in a timely fashion, not every 3 years. And because I was told that my notice was given to me in 2021. For 2024, and I don't think that's a timely fashion. But also that it's given in an accessible format. I am totally blind, and so far I've only gotten stuff. I guess I got a letter recently in print, which is not accessible to me. I've gotten some emails, but they're conflicting information in them. There's a denial, there's an acceptance, and then there's a denial. So it's very confusing. But really, I wanted to say that expiration of eligibility maybe needs to be improved. I'm blind. I've been blind all my life. I'm going to be blind in 3 years from now and 3 years from that. And so it's really frustrating that I have to say every 3 years, yep, I'm still blind. And in this particular time, because I didn't get a notice, my services were interrupted, and they're still not fully restored. So it's impacting me in a very negative way. The next thing I wanted to just say about was automated emails. When I try to respond to emails that I get from the MBTA, the communication's not very well, because it says at the bottom of every email, this mailbox is not monitored, so do not reply. So there's no way for me to reply to very important matters like this, which happened to me recently. Also, there's no names a lot of times. It's just general team, staff, or, which I'm really surprised. And if there is a number, it's a general number, like the 3200 number. When I call that, I only hear options for bus, subway, ferry boat, commuter rail, nothing about paratransit or customers with disabilities. So that number, when you call it, it's really confusing. I mean, I've called the 3200 and the 4200 number, and I'm finding that process very difficult. So maybe there would be some thought of making it easier for people who use paratransit and who have disabilities that maybe prefer to use the phone over the computer and other technology to be able to have a line to talk to somebody, especially when something like this happens. My services were suspended on my regular ride services in July and my on-demand in October, and I still haven't restored them. So I'm still am without full service, and I'm unable to go to my important appointments. So communication is so important. That maybe that process could be updated. Also, because my services were interrupted, goes to the next piece, Ride Flex. My Ride Flex was suspended, and I was told I had to reapply. Well, when I tried to do the registration process by clicking on the link in the email they sent me, it was not accessible. It was partially accessible, but not fully. It only let me answer 2 things, and then that's all. And so that process might need to be looked at again. Maybe it was considered accessible when it rolled out 6-7 years ago, but it's definitely not now. My concern with the RideFlex also, I've been on that program since it started. I was at the rollout with the governor's office, and I use a wheelchair, and I was there to show about people using the wheelchair access vehicles and things like that. And I've utilized it now for, like I said, over 6 years, and it's been life-changing for me. It's been made my life so much better. Before I took on demand, I was writing incident reports with the ride almost every day, and it was stressful and really unpleasant. And since the on-demand rolled out, I have not had any issues. And now that it's been taken away from me, I feel like I'm back to square one, and I'm really concerned about my future. I feel like the MBTA is actually trying to get people off the program rather than help people like me who really need that program over the regular program for different reasons. I find taking the regular van very painful and uncomfortable. I'm in it too long, and it's too bumpy. And so the on-demand has worked well for my health and for my work. I mean, I had to quit 2 jobs because if I was told if I was late one more time, I'd be fired. I mean, there was lots of different issues. So not to make this all about me, although I do need some help with that at another time. I'm really trying to speak up for everyone like me, because I know that for my experience, I am sure that there's many others that are having the same challenges with the ride eligibility process, with the communication process, with the RideFlex program. So now that I've been thrown off of it, I'm told that I can only get 2 rides because I haven't used the regular ride. And of course, I haven't used the regular ride because I was using the on-demand ride. So maybe the process could be updated because I use the on-demand quite a bit. So it's not that I don't use the ride. I use the paratransit ride on demand all the time. So they don't, but I know they don't gauge that. They only look at the regular usage of the sedan and the vans. So anyway, lots of, I think, ways that things could be looked at, maybe improved and or updated. So is there anything in the works for doing any of that? Because as a blind ride customer, I feel right now that I can't reach out to anybody. All I can do is talk to a call rep, and they jot down a few notes and they send it to somebody, and then I get an automated email that shows that they're not even responding to what my concerns are really. So the
Okay.
process is not working very well, at least not for me.
Gina, thank you. And I am sorry for your experience, and it sounds like there are a number of issues here. I took some notes, but I don't know if I will hit on everything, and feel free to refresh me as I look to respond to your concerns.
Okay.
So the first one is eligibility. Our eligibility, there are guidelines that we have for eligibility, and it does require us to recertify customers every 3 years. And I understand that new customers may not have that expectation, and perhaps there's a way to communicate that better. We're exploring ways to improve our communications to our customers. There are a number of ways that may not help you, but it's worth outlining to everybody here where you can obtain your eligibility expiration date. One of them would be to call TRAC and ask. Another one would be online, that anybody can log into their account and it's displayed there as well. And the Ride Flex is only provided to Ride customers, and that's intentional because we're looking to serve people with disabilities. So when Ride Flex would expire when your eligibility expires. And we are in a whole new world where there are some customers that take advantage of the Ride Flex options. And we can certainly work with you. It sounds like, again, you have a few issues. I believe somebody reached out to you this morning.
I got a email that wasn't signed. It just said customer service staff or something like that. And it just said, oh, we apologize that it happened, but here's the rules. I already know the rules. I've been taking the ride for over 30 years. And so I'm well aware of the rules. I was taking the ride before expiration dates were in effect. So, but every 3 years, I shouldn't have to remember from 3 years ago. I don't see why it would be unreasonable to get a reminder 6 months or 2 months or some closer time to my expiration date. And I know other people that have gotten those reminders. For some reason, I didn't get a reminder. I mean, it would be nice maybe, since you're utilizing this new text option, to maybe try to incorporate texting people when it gets close to their expiration date, because I don't see how that would be much of a labor of resources on the ride if it's a text messages are automatically generated at a certain time and date. I mean, most people can't remember me, at least for speaking for myself, what I had, for lunch 2 days ago or what I did a week ago. How am I supposed to remember 3 years? I don't even have the same equipment. I have a computer crash. I have things happen. I mean, are we expected? I know you're saying that we should reach out, but I feel like putting the burden on the customer all the time doesn't make sense to me. If you have this policy, then I don't see why it would make sense. We have to get notices that, from our landlord. We have to give notices that we're leaving. Notices are a pretty commonplace thing. And so
Gina?
to expect a notice is not unreasonable.
Gina,
Yes.
this is Chris Yorick. I know since you
Yes.
and I
Yes. I
talked.
spoke with you last week. Yes.
Yes, and I want to let you know I have been working with the team. We have been looking into what happened, and you are correct. There was a minor hiccup, it seems, with mobility center notification systems, and that did prevent you from getting a notification sent out. So we clearly apologize, and as I understand it, the team has ensured that your flex ridership has been restored as of earlier today.
Well, it's not. It's not. It's not. When I look in it doesn't seem to be restored on my end. I still don't have access to it. So.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely make sure that we connect tomorrow to make sure that you have your flex ridership, your membership back, along with your your appropriate number of trips. I do apologize that this hiccup seems to have caused a lot of a lot of concern for you.
It
It is
has turned my
unfortunate.
life upside down. I feel like a prisoner in my house. I've had to cancel appointments because I can't get to them. So it's definitely, the interruption has caused me a lot of stress and concern. And the fact is that I am not, I'm renewed. It took less than 5 minutes to renew me over the phone because I renew over the phone. Um, and as a rule. So it just amazes me that for less than 5 minutes a process that my whole life is turned upside down just because I didn't get the proper notification. Also, I don't have any money in my ride account, and I know other people that have gotten announced, notices sent to them that they didn't have sufficient funds in their account. I never got anything like that either. So I think, I'm not getting a lot of different communications from the T for some reason, the ride. I'm not sure why, but I mean, now, of course, I know to check all these things. I thank you for giving me all these options. I have booked online trips with the dashboard in the past. I did text today to see what my balance was, and now I know that I have insufficient funds. So, I mean, I am doing work. I'm not just expecting the ride to do everything, but even with all these things, just because I didn't get that one notice, it just snowballed, so to the fact that it affected my on demand, which I really heavily rely on for a lot of reasons, which I won't go into, but being totally blind and someone who uses a wheelchair, you need to have a lot of different types of access to paratransit. Sometimes one is better than the other. So I appreciate you working on this, Chris. And yes, is it Michelle?
Yeah, it's Michelle. And thank you, Chris. Chris has kept me abreast of what was going on throughout the day, and that we are committed to making this work for you and understand, that there were issues. We could certainly work through them, and we'll have someone follow up with you. Trying to hit, as I look at my notes, and I think everybody benefits from this discussion. We've had this discussion before. The organizational structure, the MBTA structure, is such that there is a corporate customer service team that takes complaints and concerns, tracks them, and pushes them through to the modes of transportation for follow-up. And that is intentional because right now we don't have staff on our team. I had mentioned we're looking to build out 2 additional positions, but we really have little staff dedicated to troubleshooting these, which is why you're not going to get a specific name or phone number. They're distributed often throughout the team for investigation and follow-up. But I'm looking at the upcoming months, hopefully the next month or 2, where we will have 2 additional people on board to support us. And that also speaks to tracking and trending data, information, complaints, proactively reaching out to customers, and taking your input and making changes. Some of the other discussions we've had is how can we improve communications, perhaps a newsletter where we're reminding people eligibility lasts only 3 years, and please check or remember to check periodically your eligibility. But ideally, you would have received a notification via email 6 to 8 weeks prior to your expiration. And what Chris has found out is that there was somehow a disconnect and you did not receive that notification. And for that and any number of reasons here, I apologize, but I'm looking forward to connecting with you and hearing more of your feedback to see where we can make some adjustments. Particularly, I jotted down your accessibility concern, which I already have a team member looking into now.
Okay, so I did have a name on some of my emails. It said she was the ADA director, Nicola Mukrom. Is she still at the T? Because she has not responded to me at all.
She is the director of the mobility center, and she
Okay.
handles eligibility and travel training.
Oh, okay, so she was at the bottom of a lot of the emails, but the number to her was just a general T number. And there was really no way of reaching her or her office or anything like that that I could tell. But there was a link in the email, I think one of the original emails that said if you have any questions, but all it did is bring me to a tool to see if I was eligible. And every time I clicked on it, it just said I was not eligible, even after I was restored eligible. So again, I think some of the technical stuff might need to be looked at because it's just not working the way it was supposed to work. So,
And
but
Gina, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say this is really helpful feedback, and separately, I can share that we are meeting with the RTAG subcommittee to develop a work plan jointly and collaboratively. And to me, it's important that we set up a means to gather additional feedback from our customers, and that's certainly one of, I would say, go out on a limb and say that's a joint goal with RTAG and with the ride. And I do think that we are positioned. I think we have turned a corner where we will have staff dedicated to much of these concerns. If not all of them, it should be all of them.
I'm
Right.
gonna just step in. Gina, you brought up a lot of concerns that many people in this group bring up, so this is extremely helpful. We just have a lot of questions in the chat
Yes,
popping
yes.
up and a
I'm
lot of
sorry.
hands raised. So I'm
Okay.
gonna
I
move
have
on to
my
the
hand
next
raised.
person.
I don't
but
even know if
this-
it's still raised.
Yes, it is. You're next, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Ann.
All right. Well, thank you for
Thank you,
listening.
Gina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Yes, I just wanted to piggyback. I have two things. One off of what Gina Russo just talked about. Back in August, I received a surprise call from the Accessibility Center to do my recertification by phone. And it took me by surprise. Usually I don't answer numbers that I don't recognize. And this day I happened to answer, and that's what it was, the person on the other line, where I didn't receive any type of notification like I've been receiving in the past. And I know at one time reservations, whenever you call, it will pop up on the screen that they'll let you know that your eligibility is running out soon. I never got that closer to the time, and they never told me that. I never received anything in the mail, and I'm lucky that, they didn't tell me, well, I, didn't reply to the time that I was supposed to, so I wasn't eligible at that time. I'm just so glad that didn't happen. So we did do the phone interview, and I was accepted back, on the ride. So that was one thing. But and like Gina said, I would really appreciate it if they send some type of notification to let us know, since you all have the ability to do that, because we don't keep track of these things. And secondly, whenever you call reservations, I know a lot of, since COVID, some of the staff work from home certain days of the week. If it can be put to the ones that are working at home, if they can take the calls in a more quieter place than they have been taken. I know I've called a couple of times. I won't call the person's name. Her house sounded very chaotic. Dog barking in the background, kids running all over the place, making noise. And she's trying to take my reservations at the same time. And to me, it's distracting and annoying. And sometimes it sounds like some of them are just getting up out of bed, and this one person, while we were doing the reservations, her phone rang, and she was distracted by that. And I could tell because she wasn't, some of the information I gave her, she had put it down wrong. So I had said to her, are you paying attention. Do you hear what I'm saying? She says, oh, yes, I'm paying attention. So then the phone rang again. And this time I could hear the voicemail. It was a male person. I guess it was some type of business she was conducting with this person. And she answered it. And she was speaking to me while he probably thought she was speaking to him. And I heard him say, hello, yes. And he was trying to talk to her in the background while she was conducting business with me. So that really annoyed me there, and so if you can please, just have these people be in a more quieter space when they're working from home and not all these distractions. I know maybe sometimes it's hard, especially if they got children, but yeah, I don't know what can be really done about that.
We can certainly address that, and that's wholly inappropriate and not behavior that's acceptable, number one. Number two, the staff did transition from COVID to 3 days a week. Every new hire since COVID is in the office 5 days a week, and they're working to have more staff in the office. The calls are recorded. So I would ask, we wouldn't be aware of this issue. The calls are sampled. There's a QA process where calls are sampled and reservationists are given report cards and graded, but we don't monitor every call. I would ask you, if you have that information, to share it via a complaint, and we can have those calls pulled and evaluated. And the reservationist would be either re-instructed or disciplined. That is not behavior that's appropriate. And then just to go back to the notifications, from what I gather, the mobility center was attempting to make phone calls to customers through the summer, a type of pilot program to see if that worked on eligibility, which is maybe why you received a phone call. But we do send out reminders 6 to 8 weeks in advance. And you can set a preference for email if your preference is to have an email notification. And like I had said earlier, we're taking a look at how we can remind customers or push out the message that eligibility is for 3 years. There are a number of ways that you can determine when your expiration date is. And you can also call TRAC to access that information. And I believe you did somebody said they replenished their account? No, they checked their account balance via the text feature. Thank you. It's nice to hear that. Worth sharing with the group here as well, that online there is a new feature to add funds that processes the fund replenishment or your account replenishment immediately instead of taking the 2 days to process.
Thanks,
And
Michelle.
thank you. And one other thing quickly I have, this really needs to be addressed because I was so annoyed. It was maybe 2 weeks ago. I had went to a rehab to pick up my mother. I had a ride scheduled. It was picking us up. It was actually the 11th of October on a Friday. I think it was the 11th of October to be correct. And I had a 1:17 pickup from the rehab. We had gone downstairs and was outside because it was a nice day, and we were outside before the pickup time. And I even rushed them to hurry up and get her ready so I can be outside for my ride, which we were. And so the time went by, I think it was 1:30, 1:40, something like that. It's like, my ride isn't here. Let me call, find out what's going on. So I did. I called and I was on the line with reservations to find out where this ride was. And at the time, a call came in from dispatch. So I told her, hold on, let me take this call. And by the time I answered the call, they had hung up. So I quickly went back to reservations and I said, that was dispatch trying to call. I said, can you quickly send a message to them to let them know that I'm standing at the main entrance and I see no driver. Well, I was with my mother and my niece and they're sighted. There's no driver here. So by that time, she sent a message and then dispatch sent a message back to let her know they sent the driver on their way. And that I was so livid because where I was standing in the main entrance, the main entrance of the rehab, the driver did not, I don't know where he was on the property, where he was, but he was not where he was supposed to be. And had he been at the main entrance and didn't see me, then that would have been acceptable. I would have accepted that because I would have known that, okay, I wasn't there at the right time. He's come and gone. That was fine. But I was there before the 117 pickup and there was no driver in sight. Wherever he was, I don't know, but that needs to be addressed as well.
Elizabeth, can I ask,
driver.
did you submit any complaints about these issues?
I didn't send no complaint in about that because I was so hot in the collar by that time. It made me so mad where they said I had to wait an hour for another ride. That meant 2:30.
Of course, we don't want to hear this, and I will again apologize for that. I would encourage everybody on this call to submit complaints so we can address them quickly. It's a lot easier to retrieve that information and address a driver.
Yeah, Michelle, but not to cut you off, shouldn't they have said to the driver, make sure the driver, first of all, was in the right address, the right location, which they were not.
I
That should have been addressed. They should have asked the driver.
I understand you're upset, and I would certainly be as well. I can't speak to the specifics of your issue because I don't have the information in front of me. Had it made it to us, and if you can share additional information after this call or with Kat or submit a complaint, we will investigate. And the investigations are pretty thorough. And if there is an issue about a driver departing or not at the correct address, this is something we'd like to get at right away and address it.
I'm just
Well,
gonna
I would certainly
pop
do that.
in.
I mean, because
Elizabeth
he shouldn't have been allowed to leave until he made sure he was at the right address and he did or did not see the passenger. But for them to
Elizabeth?
just, yes.
I'm just going to pop in because of time constraints. I know this is a very serious concern, and I want to make sure that
Sure.
the ride
Sorry
gets
about
all
that.
of the information. No worries at all. You don't need to apologize. There are just many folks who have comments to share. I want to make sure that the ride is able to help you out. So if you need any assistance sending in a complaint, feel free to reach out to me tomorrow
Sure.
and we can work on that together.
And just
Okay.
real quick, Elizabeth, yes, this
Yes.
is important and I am concerned and I would like to get that information and I'd like to have our team look at it.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, Elizabeth Ann. I'm going to read a couple of comments before passing it off to Debbie. Nora had a comment to back up Elizabeth Ann. She said, I have also noticed the sound quality of the calls when people are working at home is very variable. People either use a speakerphone or poor quality microphones, or not speaking into the microphone can be really problematic. I made a few calls to track this week, and this happened more than once. And then Susie said, and feel free to respond after I finish reading these comments. Susie said it would be way easier to get our expiration information if we could get it by text prompt, like, and then quote expiration as the prompt. And then Josh asked if it's possible to have ride eligibility last longer than 3 years or have membership continue with an easier process that doesn't require intervention by the member.
Okay.
And I will give you a moment to respond to any of those before moving on.
Okay, can you just repeat that last one? That was Josh. What was Josh's?
Yes, Josh was just wondering if it's possible to have ride eligibility last longer than 3 years, or if there's an easier process that doesn't require intervention by the member.
Okay, so if I go to the top of my notes, and feel free to hop in if I've missed something. Nora, thank you for adding your concerns as well. What we can do is have track sample more calls. If we have specific incidents of calls that you can identify to us, we can have those calls pulled. And we can have supervisors address the issue, not just with individual reservationists, but really as a whole for the team. We have calls with meetings actually with track several times a week, and we can bring this to their attention as well. What you and several others have brought to our attention about the call quality and the call volume. I appreciate that. Text option for eligibility date is something interesting and something we were interested in and looking to build out. That's something worth exploring. Separately, we are close. I know you hear this a lot, but we are very close to awarding a software contract. And our hope is that we will eliminate a lot of these manual processes and workarounds and have much more automated and improved access to information for our customers. And then lastly, eligibility, Josh. I appreciate your input, and I can tell you what we do with respect to eligibility. We recently had our eligibility process reviewed by the FTA in detail, and they were comfortable with the process. We've also taken a look at what some of the other agencies do, but it's certainly worth exploring. I would defer to my team. I think it's something worth bringing back to the group to review and see if there are other agencies or if it's even permissible. But I appreciate your input there, and I see another hand. Kat, did I miss anything?
No, you got it.
These
Michelle.
multi-part, issues I'm trying to stay on top of. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm going to hand it over to Debbie Malone.
Oh,
Debbie.
thank you guys. I appreciate it. So it's very amazing that we're all coming up with the same problem this month, because the noise in the background when you're scheduling, and please understand, I'm going to say this without any prejudice, but some of the people's accents are so heavy that it's very, very difficult, even for myself, who, I mean, I have no problem with it, but it's very, very difficult to understand. The noise in the background's been awful lately, and my spouse is hard of hearing. And if you can only imagine those of us who have good hearing are having a hard time, he can't do it. He had to hand me his phone yesterday and today, trying to call people, because he just can't get it, because it's just so noisy. And even with the hearing aids in, it picks up all that background noise, and it's just like, he's like so frustrated, and he's like, here, hands me the phone. And so that was one main issue, was that communication. The whole scheduling thing is really, it's very difficult. And then the other piece of it was the scheduling itself. So, and I called today to complain on his behalf. So I was not nice, and I would be very happy to admit it. So he had 2 appointments today, right? And when he called yesterday to schedule, right, first of all, he had to end up handing me the phone because the girl wasn't getting his appointments. But then when they scheduled 4 different rides, but the 2 rides in the middle between appointments overlapped. Okay, so he missed the 3rd ride. As a consequence, he had to cancel the appointment and miss the 4th ride. So is there a way for scheduling to say, well, those things seem like they're too close together, we may not be able to do it. Can we go from one appointment to other? Or somehow look at it and say, this may not work. So he can adjust what he needs to, or me, or whoever it is, can adjust. Okay, maybe instead of going home and then to the new appointment, maybe we'll go directly. Like the scheduling people just look at it and say, we're trying to look at it from our end. And the fact that there's like 2 hours in between appointments and figuring that's enough time. but it ended up not being enough time. So how can we get clarification and how can we schedule things in a way that it's going to work? That's all I have to say.
All right, Debbie. Thank you. Can I ask about the noise in the background? Is that call center noise, or are you able to distinguish if these are remote employees?
Sorry,
Debbie?
Debbie, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I'm not sure, actually, to be honest. I'm really not sure. It sounded like there were a lot of people in the background, yeah, on yesterday's call. So I'm assuming it's at home, just because normally I don't think the call center ones are like that. That's the only thing I can guess. Before I forget, he did have to call twice yesterday to schedule it. The first person had such a heavy accent. We couldn't understand him. He couldn't understand us, and he ended up hanging up on us. So then we called back and we got the person who, whatever. There was just a lot of noise. It's just been crazy. Anyway, I don't know.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you. And separately, I will share that I struggle when there's background noise anywhere, particularly with call centers. So I can certainly understand that. This is another situation, Debbie, where I would love to have those calls pulled and reviewed.
Okay.
And to me, this is, and I hate to say it's a learning or a teaching moment for our team because it inconvenienced you, and I'm sorry for that. But I like to take this feedback back to the team and share it with TRAC and have these calls pulled and require them to sample more calls or perhaps target specific reservationists for reinstruction, because I do think that we have some new reservationists, but for reinstruction, for education, perhaps pairing them with a more seasoned reservationist. But it's difficult for me to speak to, and I hear it's a common theme, but it's difficult for me to speak to this without having heard the call or really understanding the issue. And Debbie, I know that you submit complaints, and I would ask, did you submit a complaint on this one? Because I'd love to have that one pulled.
No, not on the noisy phone call, but I can definitely do that tomorrow. It's not a problem.
Okay.
We can do that together. Paul and I can do that together.
Yeah, I would like to follow up because I really like to think that this is an opportunity to learn and instruct staff. And if it's a repeated behavior, then perhaps discipline is warranted. But I think there are some adjustments that we can make based on the feedback here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Debbie. Thanks, Michelle. Debbie Weathers, you're next. I feel like the
Okay.
Debbies are always
Hello.
following one another.
You do go back to back.
Okay. Hello. I
Hello,
just want
Debbie
to say,
Weathers.
okay. I was just saying that the call center, the recertification center. I mean, I did get my letter,
Mm-hmm.
and it says fill out all this information when you have it. The call center. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with the call center because I called it, and it was like that says, "Are you here for recertification?" Hit 1, and I hit it. Are you here for, do you have your paperwork? I hit 1. And then it kept retracting the same thing over and over again. So I thought it was my phone. So I hung up that house phone and I called it on my cell phone. Same thing. Every time I hit 1, it would retract, just keep like in a circle. So I had a hard time due to them. It took me
Clearly,
almost
that's
like
not supposed to happen.
Oh, but it kept
And
doing it
sometimes
on-
technology fails us. Would you happen to know the date that happened?
No, but it happened too because I called the next day, the same thing. So
Could I ask you if
when
it was recent? Was it this month?
yes, it was this month.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely this month.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
pretty sure it's probably, if I called today, it'd probably still be there, hitting the one, and keep circulating.
There's
So I
no
had to
doubt that
call
there's someone
another-
from our team trying that right now.
Yeah, because I had to try to call another number to get
We
to them, and I
will
hit
look into
something
that.
totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
And
you, Debbie.
eventually they came through.
That's the first time I've heard of that issue. We'll look into it, and as
And
soon as
then
we're done
when
here,
I
I'll
finally
check it
got-
out myself.
When I finally got through to them,
Mm-hmm.
they said the next available was November the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave me 8:30 or 9. I picked 9. And then I called to check on something because I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to get a PCA. Then I called them back, going through that thing all over again. And I asked them, I said, he said, it's on the 5th. I said, no, you distinctly picked the day. I didn't pick the day, you picked it. And they had the wrong day. They told me the 4th, they picked the 5th. And then they had to track it and they fixed it. But they did fix it after they finally tracked it. So I mean, somebody should just check that number periodically and see what happens.
What I'd also like to share is, from what I gather, that there is an option for a callback from the mobility center too.
Yep, there's a callback. I never use those. I don't trust them.
Thank you, Debbie,
They
for
say,
sharing
if you're
this.
this spot in the line, I'll call you back. I don't trust them to call me.
Yeah,
So I just
thanks,
stay on the
Debbie.
line.
This is
All
this is
right.
helpful. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. I am going to ask a quick chat question, excuse me, and then we can move on to the next two people with their hands raised. Gina asked, what is the best way to report a problem with a reservationist or ride trip? Is there a best email address to use?
Customer service. I would have
Just
them
the-
report it in through customer service.
Just general customer service?
That's the 222-3200. We do have team members that look at those complaints. We push them right through to the call center and have them investigate.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. The next person, I might
And
mispronounce.
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt? I understand everyone's frustration without having a direct line to our team, but the intent again is to capture all customer concerns and feedback at a central location in a database where it's documented. And that's one of the reasons why we push everything through that call center. Sorry, Kat.
No worries. Thank you for the clarification. I might mispronounce your name, but is it Vinod? Or Vinod?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yes. Vinod. My full name is Vinod Chawla. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I was going to tell about the problem which Gina had raised. And this problem happened with me last year. And there were various other people who are having the problem. You know, the root cause is that RIDE used to send us a letter by mail telling us our eligibility is expiring and we have to make an appointment or make on the phone. Now it's more than a year. I'm surprised to see it is still pending, and that had happened with me last year. So I'm sorry to know about that. Even though I can see now there are a lot of improvements with the RIDE services as compared to what it was last year. But still, things have to be more, taken into consideration, because I have gone through all these problems. A few months ago, the RIDE driver, I was told by the, dispatch that the driver is waiting for you, and the driver was not there. So he might have been at the other building, but we have 3 buildings in our place, the building north, south, and east. And by default, because I specifically told them I'm in the north building, and still the driver go to the south building. And they said they have already told the driver to come to the north building. And I kept on waiting, and after half an hour, when I called them, they said the driver have left, no show. So these things are happening, and I'm surprised they are still happening. And I have to say that only thing, if we can tell the customers, our RIDE people, especially it happens more with the blind person. I see the other problem, the Gina and the other woman, they are all blind. And this is happening us a lot, because I'm totally blind. I can't even see the vehicle is in front of me or not. And they were sending the, Uber or Lyft, and then I can't see the driver. Driver keep on sitting in the seat. So whenever I book it, I tell them not to send, and always send only the MBTA ride. And the other day, just few days before, maybe 10 or 15 days ago, when I was being picked up from Cambridge by the ride driver, and he take me out, and again he came to the west building, to the south building, and say, here is your building. I say, is this a north building? I say, yes, I think so. And but I say, okay, can you read there? Then he try and see, say, no, this is not done. This is south building. He said, my GPS bring me here. And then I have to explain him and tell him that, no, I have to go to the north building. And then I gave him the route how to go to the north building. So my request is this still needs some improvement in this regard. I'm just emphasizing on this thing. Thank you.
I wouldn't disagree with you. Thank you for your feedback. I took a few notes and I can share with you that we've established a relationship with MGH partners. We're having some discussions about entrances, drop-off and pickup points. And we're looking to see if we can improve that and expand it to other locations with multiple drop-off and pickup points. I would encourage you or other people on this call, if you don't already subscribe to the text option, that this ride along option is really helpful. And what it does, if you subscribe, is they push a link to you that you can click on that updates in real time. And while we have not fully rolled it out, it is available to customers that have texted, that have selected the text option. And that will also help you track your vehicle, because I did hear a couple of comments about tracking vehicles. And we are working on filling out our team. I had mentioned a deputy director of innovation, and our hope is that we can look at technology doesn't solve everything, but I do think that there are potentially some technology that we can introduce for accessibility concerns, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to pilot some new innovative solutions to assist with accessibility.
Great. Thank you for the question and thanks for the response, Michelle. I am going to let Shirley close us out, and just because of time constraints, and if anyone else has any questions after this meeting, feel free to reach out and we can work together to get those delivered to the ride team. So go ahead, Shirley.
I would definitely like to follow up with you this week on some of what we've discussed here.
Can do. Go ahead, Shirley.
Thank you, Kat. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Cheryl.
I've contemplating saying this or complaining about this. Saturday, the 19th, I had scheduled the ride to take me to Hingham from Waltham. Everything went well with my pickup time in the morning, but my pickup for my return trip home was not so great.
Mm-hmm.
I was scheduled for a 3:42 pickup.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'd asked to be picked up at 3:15, and I understand the 30-minute window. So 3:40 was the time that I was told the night prior. At 3:40, there was still no ride picking me up in Hingham. I had used the text feature for the ETA, and the answer I got back was that I could not get an ETA for this ride because it was something called U-Serve that was picking me up.
Okay.
So I then called into dispatch, and I just have to give a shout out to the gentleman there, Jeff, in dispatch. He's really a wonderful, helpful man.
Thank you.
Yes. And I will say that he found the ride, the U-Serve driver, and he told me they'd be there in the next 10 minutes. So my concern is with this company, and I understand that you all are contracted out with them or they're contracted to you, whatever the case may be. The gentleman got out of the car and he was very kind, helping me with my bags, but I went to get into the back seat as I'm used to doing. And the driver says, no, 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 get in the front. And I said, excuse me? He said, no, you have to get in the front because I have my baby in the back sleeping. I was a little uncomfortable. Number one, sitting in the front seat next to a driver that I didn't know. And number two, that there was a child in the car while this man was working. My hesitation to complain was that I don't want to cause someone who is trying to make a living for their family any problems or to lose a job. And if it was the case that he didn't have a babysitter or whatever the case may have been, but I didn't get picked up until after 4 o'clock. And I was thinking maybe that's the reason he was late, was something to do with his child. So I just wanted to bring this concern to your attention. Again, not trying to make anybody lose their job, but being contracted out to a company such as the ride, I don't think that it's right for a driver to make a passenger sit in the front seat and bring their child along while they're working. Thank
Shirley,
you.
you're absolutely correct. No, under no circumstances should that have ever happened. And I understand your reluctance to share that with us, and I agree with you. I would not like to see someone lose their job. However, we do contract out to Userve, and there are certain requirements for the provision of service, and that is not meeting our requirements. And I would ask you if you could share that information, because they are supposed to require the same level of service that our ride marked vehicles provide.
Okay. And do you want me to call into the number? Did you say it was 222-3200?
Yes, but if we could have someone follow up with you and take down this information.
Sure.
Okay, Kat, would you happen to have the, and you don't give it now with everyone on the line, but Kat, would you happen to have that contact information?
Shirley, I believe I have your contact information.
I think you do.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make sure to share it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Shirley. And I accidentally missed a question in the chat. And Mike answered it, but I just want to share it out loud for everyone else. Aliska asked, what flexibility do drivers have to swap the order of stops if it makes sense? I've heard conflicting things. And Mike shared, all drivers should follow the manifest on the computer. There is logic that goes into the scheduled order the driver is not aware of. If something does seem odd, they should call dispatch for assistance.
Thank you, Mike.
Do you want to add anything to that? Okay.
Nothing to add to that other than there's a reason for it.
Okay, and I'm just going through the chat to see, there is a comment for, I believe, system-wide accessibility. So I'm going to share it. And Laura, let me know if you have a response. Linda shared, consider the factors when red line, orange line, or other lines are being upgraded. Track, signal work, etc. Traffic is more congested because waiting for shuttles may delay the rider's trip significantly. Has consideration been given to send more than 2 shuttles for very busy red line, orange line to accommodate ridership?
So Linda, are you talking about bus shuttles, or sometimes for certain diversions we add in supplemental accessible vans? Are you talking about buses or vans in this question?
I believe Linda is still on the call. Linda Freeman, are you able to either chat a response or hop off mute?
So if not, I'll answer both ways. So for many of our larger diversions, when bus shuttles are required, generally we assign quite a few third-party buses or MBTA buses to provide that service that otherwise would be provided by subway. So it could be anywhere between 15 buses to 60 buses, depending on the volume of riders anticipated. There are some diversions that happen out there that, due to them being in the early morning hours or due to their being in an isolated part of our system, we may only need 1 or 2 buses to provide that shuttle. But the number of buses is very much directly tied to the projected ridership during that diversion. Now, I will say for some of our diversions, we will, in addition to the bus shuttles, request that we have an accessible van or 2 on hand. We only do this in limited scenarios. One of the scenarios is if the majority of the buses being used in the diversion are high floor with lifts instead of ramps, we will ask that there be a van or 2 on hand, because we know the lift-equipped buses, although they are accessible, are simply more challenging than the ramp-equipped buses. So we always like to have a van or 2 on hand if that's something a rider would prefer. So we calculate the number of vans needed based on a number of factors, ridership, as well as some of the number of barriers individual might encounter. Generally, we don't have more than 2, but for some diversions, we've gone as high as 3 or 4.
Great, thank you, Laura. All right, we have made it to end of time. Again, if folks have additional questions or comments, feel free to reach out after the meeting. I'm happy to help. And I'm gonna have Rob just go to the last slide. I believe there's one more. All right, so our next general member meeting will be on Thursday, November 21st from 5:30 to 7:30 on Zoom. And I think I've shared, potentially shared last month, that we are trying to work on making meetings hybrid at some point in the new year, hopefully to make it more accessible for folks who don't have access to technology. So of course, there would still be a virtual component for folks who cannot attend in person. We dropped the link to sign up for RTAG newsletters in the chat. I highly recommend signing up for those. We not only share meeting information, but also just what work that RTAG has been doing. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Michelle and Laura, for your presentations. I think there were some wonderful questions today, and I hope that you all have a good rest of your night, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Here.
Thank you.